Oh, I forgot my lighter because I was going to smudge this space. Let me start out with that. Give me like a second. I'm going to go grab some fire so I don't have to restart this whole thing. Come on, baby, light my fire. We'll use this one today. Alright, good morning. Good morning, welcome in to our meditation space. We'll pull some cards this morning. And Orient transition is on my mind. Moving from one thing to another because we're talking about transformation, personal transformation, collective transformations. So if you're going to transform, there's a transitionary period, right? Kind of like the interstice or the space between now and then, or was and then. Part of my own transition is transitioning from this space into a broader space, into a bigger space, expanding in that transition. We'll start with Deviant Moon because I have it here. Again, if you pop on and you have any questions, you can ask. If you jump on the live stream, you can put questions into the comment feed. I'll mention it again. Any tips or anything like that, or any contributions, you can put on my Venmo at Reno Tahoe Arts Concierge, or message me and I'll send you something. Send you a link. Bear with me, I'm running on 2 hours of sleep. The last, 3 days or something now. This would be day 3 of just a very deep introspective look into and through things internally to reach the external point. This one is here, 2 wands, so bringing together stuff, unifying things. Or again, if we're talking about transitioning, planting seeds, harvesting, something we've talked about as well in regards to manifesting. Interesting card though, huh? My last couple of days have just been interesting, progressively more synchronistic, perhaps. I feel compelled, I suppose, to, initiate or begin all this with my own transformative or my own transformation. Transformation 4.0, 5.0, whatever one I'm at already this lifetime. But I've learned a lot of things along the way, and so I feel compelled to share those. Okay. So you're thinking transitioning, right? We're unifying 2 different things, or bringing a couple different things together into one. So it's a farmer beginning to plant seeds, or planting in the fields. I think he's planting garlic. It's one of the Trinity roots as far as healing and health and well-being goes. And also something that staves off energy vampires. So whatever you're planting is keeping those things away. And again, if you jump on here, you can ask questions and put them down into the comment feed, or put something in your brain too. Creative use of energy, bringing together ideas, focusing on a single objective, simplifying things, right? Working together for a common goal, unifying forces. I think if there's any sort of discord or disharmony in your life, or something that you're feeling that's not quite working out for you in this transition, not being able to think creatively, that seems to be a theme or something that popped up in the last couple of days through my feed. the creative blocks, getting through creative blocks. Like, that's something we can discuss. If you have your own individual creative blocks or something you want to work through, reach out to me. As I mentioned to somebody this morning, I do innovative behavior training as well. It's kind of part of the transformative aspect and simplifying things, right? And unifying things. So kind of in my own realm, there are, let's like simplifying, if we're going to go into duality, like 2 different realms that I exist professionally in, the arts and in the therapeutic or in the psychology field. And I'm not licensed as an art therapist, so I use art as a therapeutic tool all the time, or I cross-pollinate or find ways to bridge the gaps between these two, which can be, I think, confusing for other people. Like, something that I've heard often, or like in response to, like, what do you do? And one specific conversation I had specifically is coming to mind, where they asked me, what do you do? Well, I do this, 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 and this, right? And then, no. What do you do? This, right? And I'm like, no, like, most people do one thing, right? Like, what do... And it was such a frustrating conversation to have. But one, I think that opened my eyes to the limitations that people have in terms of identities, careers, project ideas, because we're told we can only be and do one thing, or we're reduced to a singularity, right? People are collectively a community, sometimes groups. Other people want to, what's the word I'm looking for? Single us out, right? Like, create some sort of way to define based on one thing, and so it can be difficult to be multifaceted. But I think in order to connect to things outside of yourself, right, there has to be an aspect of that. Divided attention is here, separation, dysfunction, of being caught up in the realm of duality and other ideas, right? Because if you can't think creatively, then you're thinking very limited or linearly, perhaps, though creativity can go in a linear direction as well. Simplifying things, simplifying distractions, or releasing the distractions, or something that's coming to mind too, is the prevalence of ADHD, or like attention deficits, right? And speaking with a clinical professional years ago, it was brought to my attention, especially related to children, food coloring, or like red food coloring dye, can lead to things like ADHD, so consider what you're eating. It's not so much that it's like, there's a limiting belief, like you're defining yourself with one thing, like I am this or I have that, and not fully crediting the power of your consciousness and your brain and your mind to not be defined by that, or to kind of break out of those barriers. This is one of my favorite cards. I mean, if we're talking about transitioning, then we're talking about cultivating and cutting things down. There are messages here for you in terms of doing the work and making things bearable, but there's a harvesting aspect that has to happen, but that can look inverted as well, as far as clearing the fields, because if you're going to plant new seeds, right, you're going to plant something new, you have to first cut down all of that which isn't working for you. And fall is the season for that. I mean, we clear out the dead branches and clear out those things so that in springtime new things can be born. And there's maybe positives and negatives to that, because you can clear out too much, or you can like rake up all the leaves instead of composting them, which ultimately has a ripple effect into things like insects or other minoring factors. I'm not literally discussing gardening. What are you? 8 wands. And this one's on top too. It's this. There's a couple of them. It's like wands, 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 all manifesting power. We'll read it in this book. The Tribe of Wands lives their life with passion and creativity. And again, we're talking about creativity, creative thinking, right? Creative ways of overcoming limitations. 8 is cyclical. Goes around, comes around, sort of a thing, or like a preparatory thing, a seasonal thing. What showed up for me last night too about seasons? Some clip I was watching in relationships, or some like TikTok thing about relationships. Some guy was did a video clip or something like that. He's cleaning the bed, but he was talking about how he and his wife have slept in different beds for the last 5 years because of kids. Like, it's not a dysfunctional thing, right? It was something that for the season of their relationship and for that aspect, something that worked for them and that they needed to do. And now that they're transitioning out of that, right, and she's moving back into the bed and they're coming together, it shows him, sweeping under the bed, cleaning up the things, cleaning the mattress, flipping the mattress, putting new sheets on, and preparing, right, for her re-entry, preparing for the next season, and cleaning out all of those things that have been there for a while, the things that you may not have noticed. And I think probably, especially in regards to the conversation that I had this morning in meditation, if you're trying to change this, right, trying to change your mind, it's difficult to change your mind by going into the mind to change the mind. If we're talking about it from a behavioral perspective, like our thoughts become things, so if we reverse engineer that, the things also influence our thoughts. So the environment is going to influence your thoughts. And on very subliminal and subconscious ways, just by like the things that you keep around you that hold memories or some sort of nostalgia. What's the other? There's another word that I'm looking for. I'm tired, so bear with me. Sentimental. That's the one I'm looking for. The sentimental things. And finding appropriate containers and spaces for the sentimental things, because if things are leaking out, we in our attention spans, right, we can in present time, in the present moment, in our working memory, so in that what we are conscious of time, we can only attend to, they say, 4 things or so. And out of the trillions and trillions of things that are around us, we begin to habituate, right? We habituate to our environment, which basically means we no longer respond or notice the things that are around us, especially if they're not moving or changing. We tune them out. They're no longer recognized as a novelty or threat, right? So they kind of dive in or end up in this realm of neutrality and non-existence, or at least subconscious existence, where we're not attuned to them, but they're still influencing our energies in some form or another. So let's see, a peasant woman prepares to rid her land of the wands growing in the field. An 8th wand serves as a scythe as she readies to cut them all down with a single stroke. Above her, a black crow flies into the scene with important news. So quick actions, decisions made in haste, delivery of important news, voyage by air. The opposite side of this, and I think what happens when we don't clear out the dust bunnies, right? When we don't sweep under the bed and, I guess, get stuff out of the corners or organize or sort things, we get stagnation, right? Or it's a resemblance of stagnation in life. If you're stagnating, things aren't moving, things aren't flowing in, new things aren't going in, and old things aren't going out. It's suffocating, right? There's no oxygen within the system, and if it's the body that is lacking the oxygen, then it leads to things like illness or cancer more specifically. There's no life force to flow things around. Domestic woes comes into play as well. Again, I'm talking about your environment and the things that are influencing on a influencing you on a day-to-day basis. Your domestic life, your home life. Maybe there's just sadness or like being discontent about all of that. Inside, outside, old things influencing current things, new things influencing current things. Again, a division of attention as far as domestic matters go, which are making things difficult. It leads to envy and jealousy. And it's a hard space to be in. It's a hard energy to be in if you're in that space of envy and jealousy, right? There's that judgment and comparative aspect, or gets us into the neediness and the wanting versus the necessity of things. And we talked about that a couple of days ago, or one of the videos of all of this a couple of days ago. And it's tricky to maneuver and to get through. This one shows up too, right? Where you've got the Page of Wands and you've got this guy, right? In this balance, while we're planting these seeds, there's also this balance here, right? Where we have to carefully tread these waters in transition. Transitions are slippery. It's difficult to maintain balance in those transitions. It's very easy to fall and to get cold and to go cold. Something too just about the thought of like slipping on the ice and falling through the ice. Like, it's one thing if you hit the ice, ouch, it hurts, right? But if you hit the ice and you crack through it and you fall into it, then you're submerged under this water with ice, and the ice can freeze over and you can get trapped under the emotions, and it can be very difficult to find your way back out because you have to go out through the hole that you created to get into it in the first place, which can be very painful. Or I don't want to call it traumatizing, but can remind you of the trauma of falling into it. So therefore you're wanting to avoid it, thinking that it would be re-traumatizing, having to experience it again instead of alchemizing it and working your way out of it or through it. Okay, so let's look at the Page of Wands, because this is creative stuff. And it's difficult within these creative blocks because we'll hit a wall. And it's oftentimes an emotional wall, and that, like a protective barrier, like something in our psyche is protecting us from wanting to feel the intense emotions or to process the intense emotions. And if it's creative space, right, that creative space it's supposed to be there to help you process the difficulty in those emotions. And so if there's a resistance to that in that creative space, then there's something you're resisting as far as looking at yourself or creating change within that environment too. What are you, Page of Wands? So pages are like students, right? They're still learning. They haven't mastered anything yet. They haven't initiated their hero's journey yet. It's like the preparation for the hero's journey, and it's a tale as old as time, and you can look into it as far as archetypes if you're trying to structure a direction that you want to go in life. So if we're talking about like directions and where we're wanting to go, if you don't have that structure, then you're just kind of like wading through the dark, right? Page. Using a pair of handmade stilts, the page boldly treks across an icy pond. And it creates an interesting story here, right? Where, like, you can break apart this dynamic, plant it into the field, and then take a couple of those dynamics, or two of these sticks within this, grab them, and then try to walk with them. Instead of unifying all of these forces, it's like having to decompose, or I don't know if decompress is quite the right word. Treks across an icy pond. Undaunted by the inherent risk of his actions, he confronts life's obstacles with youthful optimism and energy. And there's something there, I think, about the risk-taking, or those like impulsions, compulsion, impulses and compulsions. So this way, if we're making educated guesses about taking a risk, or taking a risk from an educated perspective, especially in the creative expression part of it, you have to take some sort of risk to break out of yourself, or to at least try to overcome or transition from one side to the other. It's risky. There's a lot that can happen from here to there, so it's imperative to stay balanced, or to maintain that balance, right? Creative thinking, ingenuity, genius, so finding creative, innovative ways, new ways of doing things to get from there to here, or whatever. There was some sort of innovation that happened with the stilts to take it from the seed planter, right, from one function, one purpose, being planted, being in one space, right, to allowing that idea to germinate, to come into fruition, to incubate, so that you can take those original resources and again use them in a new way to make you mobile. So there's movement, moving in transition. Maybe I want to move where, I don't know, to what feels like home, or to the next elevation of my growth, right? That transition, that wanting to do better, be better, feel better, evolve, the evolutionary part of it. But interesting too, kind of in that dynamic, because evolutionarily speaking, if we were once nomadic, we have, through agriculture and whatnot, become domestic, or become connected to one area. And in this inversion of energies, we're finding that people are becoming more nomadic, or they're being forced to move, and we're seeing this on a global level in terms of war, or even like political discord, like the number of people trying to move out of America, that kind of a thing. But movement and wanting to go on to something new, wanting to create a difference or create change, you just have to ask yourself if you're running to something or if you're running away from something. Let's talk Seven Wands then, because the Seven Wands is like being lost in the dark before you can harvest all of the things, so it becomes before the 8, right? A bewildered child has been lost in the thicket for several days. Against overwhelming odds, she finally discovers a path that will lead her home. 7 blooming wands mark the end of the ordeal. Same thing, like in regards to falling into the ice and having to find your way out. There's a sense of perhaps panic and maybe feeling lost. It just takes time. What's interesting, because this is like the blooming wands are marking the end of one ordeal. And so what happens in the natural cycle of the plant? The flower blooms, and then it dies, and then it has to be cut down and reharvested so that it can grow again next year, or next cycle, next season, whatever that may look like to you. Those can be quantumly defined short seasons, or they can be longer seasons. It doesn't have to be like literal summer, spring, fall, winter. You kind of have your own seasons that you have to become aware of. In that transitioning and that evolution, there's a natural cycle and growth period. As above, so below. You have your warm times and your cold times, right? And we're transitioning now from the warmth into the cold on a collective season. So there are like necessary steps that need to be taken in regards to survival. If we go back 100 years, couple hundred years, the impending doom, like if you don't harvest enough food in fall, you're not going to have enough to make it through winter. So everything that you're cultivating and harvesting now is got to get you through the cold period. So you have to make sure that you're being mindful of that and being diligent and dutiful. And it's hard work, it's toil, and it's labor, and it's by no means easy. There's like sun up to sundown, and working late into the nights, or having to get up early in the morning, or working maybe literally in the dark, maybe late at night, or later in the evening, or really early in the morning. But doing this inner reflection, transforming, like this meditation through transition, when the sun's not out. Not necessarily that it has to be nighttime, but the darkness outside will, I don't know, it speaks to your internal clock somehow in regards to how you're going to internalize or integrate, perhaps, whatever it is that will come up for you. Also easier to kind of trick the mind into being in that, like subliminal dream state. So things are more lucid and a little more easy to work with without the distraction, the noise of the light and the sun and all the other sensory input that comes along with that. Ooh, there's a lot this morning, isn't there? So, let's look at this side of it, because this is loss, self-doubt, no faith in one's ability. And it's so hard to break out of that. Like, you just really have to trust in something greater beyond yourself, and that if you take the risks to open up in those vulnerable spaces to want to make those changes, or if you start maybe it's micromanaging aspects of your time, but not like micromanaging, like experienced this in my last job, where you have somebody looking over your shoulder and telling you, fine-tuning or criticizing the way you're doing things, and making you do things specific to the way that you're going to do it. That kind of micromanagement, that's not what I'm talking about. This is not about trying to create a sense of control or dominance over somebody else, or even over yourself, like the micromanagement in terms of managing things on a microscopic level, on a little level. So you're making these fine, minute changes, like micromanaging yourself, like moment to moment in that mindfulness space. So if I'm feeling anxious, or if my heart's racing, or I can start feeling myself getting upset and going into this, the micromanagement of taking that time and that opportunity. Let's do it now together. Breathe, right? In through the nose, out through the mouth 3 times. In group settings, it's amazing how it shifts the energy. And I've started art classes out with this, big art classes, lots of children, adults, whatever, and it always has the same effect. So we'll do 3 breaths together. Breathe in, out, slow, in through the nose, out through the mouth. 2, in, we can already feel that energy shifting. I feel it, so I know you feel it. We'll do 3 again. Hold it slowly. micromanaging that. So you're counting the seconds and the breath, noticing where and how that breath is moving out. Is it making sounds? Is it not making sound? Should it make a sound? Those sort of things. And fine-tuning the little tiny details. Like getting all the color inside the lines, or doing the cleanup detailed work. Like in regards to painting, do I have a completed piece? Not really, but I have like 2 pieces halfway in between. I'll kind of tell you what I'm talking about. Which one? So, I like painting in abstract, and typically within my process, it starts out casting a big abstract net color web of things where it's kind of messy. And then from those messy layers, I fine-tune and fine-tune and fine-tune. So like a part way through, right? There's not a completion. There's no definitive lines. Things are still kind of fuzzy. You have a complete picture, but if you're going to micromanage things or detail things, it's coming in with that teeny tiny fine little brush over the top of this next, right? And then working in those subtle details that make it pop, or that create like, in regards to painting, it would be an optical illusion, or some sort of optical effect where things come out of the 2D into the 3-dimensional. And it's one of the oddest things that I experience when painting something, is that moment where it's very dull and very flat, and then you add in a line or you add in a color, and all of a sudden this 2-dimensional image that you're looking at shifts, it moves, it almost comes alive, like it pops out of you, not literally, but optically. You perceive it to be more dimensional than it really is, or it begins to take shape and begins to come to life. Let's look at the other aspect of this. So lost doubt, no faith in one's ability. We almost have to reach these points, like the ego death. We're talking about transition. So that's the death of the ego. And it sucks, and it hurts, and it feels weird, and it's uncomfortable. It's heavy, and you feel it in the chest, not just in the heart, but the whole chest. It's a weight. And anybody who's experienced that looming self-doubt, it can be quite crushing. But it's not necessarily something that we want to push away, because that ego, again, with identities and labels, creates limited belief systems that keep us locked into our current states of consciousness, or keeps us locked into these cycles so that evolution doesn't occur. So the other side of that, through that persistence, or through pushing through those uncomfortable things, feeling those feelings, or allowing that ego death to happen, right? Allowing that to come down. Tower card is here. Allowing that to happen, allowing everything to come crushing down around you so that something new can be built up. And it's important, and it's imperative. It's the reason why pine trees react the way that they do to fires, or it takes some aspect of destruction for new seeding to occur. Or what kind of coniferous plants? Is that the wrong word? Right? Like the pine cones won't release the seeds unless they're triggered by fire. So it takes that. But the trees themselves, or the bark, and you see these trees are hundreds and hundreds of years old, where they're charred and scarred on the outside, but they're alive on the inside, right? But it's part of the process. We call that ugly, so we avoid it. But there's beauty in that as well. We're just taught that things that are ugly are bad. That's a theme that popped up the other day too. So let's look at beating the odds, victory over all competition, winning a fight or a struggle. Basically, that's the ability to transition, to overcome one thing and move on to the next. It doesn't necessarily have to be a like competition with other people, or I don't know, whatever that's about. The competitive aspect of it's making me kind of uncomfortable, because I don't think that competition is necessarily, at least the connotations of it in our contemporary etymology doesn't really speak to the power of it all. We're getting a little wordy and academic. I'll simplify and back down, and thank you for the stars. I really appreciate all the support in this space. It's very helpful for me, so I'm very grateful that me working through these and being vulnerable in my own transitions and speaking out and working through and processing them in these ways is also beneficial and helpful to other people, right? It makes that gregarious connection feels the collective field, the morphic resonance field. Maybe at some point or another we can go into that, but not today. It's just basically being able to overcome this if you do the work and stay balanced through it all. Let's look at the tower and then we'll shuffle through this a little bit more. I might pull out another deck as well. Where am I at? Got enough in battery to stay here for a little bit longer, so we'll see. The tower. And what an intense card. It's like higher forces are causing this to happen. So, whether it's like predetermined or destined or something, it's a natural part of the cycle, so you can't avoid it no matter what you do. You can take all these precautions and do everything that you need to do, but if you're meant to experience this, you're going to experience it. Maybe look to your natal chart for it. I've been diving into and researching more on my Chiron placement. So Chiron is the wounded healer. So we're talking about transition. So how do you take these old wounds, right, and then figure out a way to heal with them, right? And in looking at my placements within that, I had the epiphany of, oh, no wonder why I've experienced these things in my life. Maybe it's a coincidence, who knows? It's just like, no matter what I would have done or could have done or whatever, it's like these experiences were bound to happen, regardless of my control or my influence. Like, it's just something written into the dynamic or the experience of it, which can be a little, maybe disturbing is the word, when you see it and you go, oh, because mine is, Chiron in the 8th house, and you Google it and look it up, but there's like aspects in there of sexual assault, or the likelihood of being sexually assaulted. And if you know me at all, or if you don't, whatever, a large portion of the work that I do is in sexual assault awareness, based on my own experiences of having to go through all of that. And a lot of, I guess, my work professionally, my missions, my goals in life were kind of that bridging dynamic, again, between the arts and the psychology, center on this topic and on this theme. And so, yeah, it's hard, and yeah, it's difficult, and it's whatever, but there's a point to it. I don't want to say like there's a purpose to it, but there's a point. Maybe in connecting the dots and creating some sort of larger structure or something like that. So look there. And then from there you can get into this space of radical acceptance, or this idea of, okay, I chose this for a reason. And I posted a video the other day that maybe could be relevant to this or speak to this. It might be worth looking into. I mean, you can scroll down through my page and you'll see it. But let me give you the name and the title so you know exactly what I'm talking about. but definitely worth looking into. And he gets into some of these ideas that are, let's just call them substantial in regards to empowering transformation and transition. Where did I put it? Didn't I put, oh yeah, this one. Was it like a day ago? 7 Steps to Self-Mastery, Robert Edward Grant. Somebody interesting to know. It's talking about decoding the Hermetic principles, right? And they're talking about new pyramid discoveries and things. So they go into some of the quantum physical and mathematical principles that are behind our experiences, perhaps. So it kind of takes it out of this woo-woo emotional realm and gives us a formula that we can follow. There's like a mathematical structure sequence that we can create, right? And so what is the basic formula in math? Problem equals solution. So we're looking for solutions, right? Lightning blasts from the sky strikes the tower. 2 sinners plummet to their death below as the structure falls to ruin. Something else that came up in that video too that I'm talking about, he has a little blurb there where he goes into talking about love the sinner but hate the sin. So again, in this ego death, right, it's acknowledging or allowing these sins to pass. And then uncovering, I suppose, the authentic person underneath that. It's like moving through childhood wounding, right? Because we start out in childhood as this blank, pure, innocent being that's infected by our environment, which creates, in some circumstances, not all, some way worse than others, but right, a spectrum of traumatic influences or forces that begin to alter us away from our natural state. And I don't know if I want to call it natural, but our more spiritual, higher purpose. I don't know. I don't have these words for these things yet. That, I guess, clouds or creates these layers around this thing, kind of like the cricket molting. There's something in there or whatever where I talk about a cricket molting, and just like the picture of it, like there's this really hard, dark, black shell on the outside, and these things are like gross in a way, right? But when a cricket molts, when it removes that hard outer shell, that right underneath it is a very raw, fleshy, soft, like white being, right? And having to break out of that and break through that to get to that. But it's scary, right? Because you open it and you expose that aspect of yourself, and you leave yourself susceptible to pain, torture, that sort of a thing. Maybe that's why people put on these shields or something. Well, I was watching Black Mirror last night. I'm just very fascinated by this. I'm not sure exactly which episode I'm on or where I'm at in the series, but the one that's coming to mind, military, they give them like an implant or something, right, that desensitizes them, that influences their perceptions. It makes it basically easier for them to kill. They perceive the other as a threat or as a monster, but these implants or these devices also numb out the other senses. They can't smell, they can't hear, they don't attune to these, so they become desensitized to their own violent nature. They justify it. they justify it as if they're doing something for the good of all. But ultimately, when that shield or when that sensor comes off or it's depleted or whatever, and they have to experience themselves in these dark moments, or from that lens of not being desensitized, it's overwhelming, right? And it's painful. So where are you going against your own natural inclinations? We're talking about transition, right? So this is severe or abrupt change, loss or accident, traumatic event, ruin, upheaval. Just things that are shocking, and it's not comfortable, and it's uncomfortable when you're forced into this. This makes me think of just the bombings that are happening and have been happening. I mean, from fucking Ukraine to what's going on with the Palestinians. Like there's a literal crumbling of this. I mean, there's just people that are being forced into these situations, and here we are. A friend pointed this out to me the other day. There's these horrific things that are happening, and here we are numbed and desensitized over here in our little American bubble to a lot of these things that are going on, and like we're somehow more concerned about body issues and how we look to others or how we feel in our own bodies versus being concerned about these destructive forces that are coming along and forcing traumatic change in situations where I don't know that this is necessary. As far as the collective human evolution of it all, maybe in some shape, form, or another, it's unavoidable, but we have to learn something from this. We have to come up with a solution to it. We have to be prepared to rebuild, because everything's crumbling down. It's all crashing down around us, and you can see it in so many different aspects and ways and shapes and forms. And so feeling good about how you look isn't going to solve the problems for the world. It might give you a false sense of ego and superiority or something like that, or might give you an attachment to the physical body that ultimately is detrimental. Let's look at that a little bit more. We'll pull a couple more cards on that one. Maybe I'll pull out the new chapter tarot here in a minute. I think I'm just running short on battery time. No, we're doing okay. This way, inability to break from sad events and redundancy in life. Being stuck in that sadness or being stuck in just the redundancy. Not allowing that tower to crumble or putting all of your energy into trying to keep all these things together. It's exhausting. Eventually it's all going to break through. Maybe you are breaking out. Like detoxifying in a way. Or just all of the hidden dark aspects will surface. I mean, depending on the environment or the catalyst that's around it. And that's something that I've had to understand about myself in, say, this Chiron placement. People will either really like me or they really don't. They have these really positive connections to me, or they just avoid me altogether. I wouldn't even say just me. Something about that 8th house Chiron placement or something. I looked into group forums and group chats or whatever to get an understanding of how other people are experiencing this as well, and it's very similar to what I'm experiencing too. But there's something about that energy that magnetizes any hidden deep dark forces or something you might have, and then pulls them up to the surface. And when they get pulled up to the surface into your own conscious awareness, I feel it, I see it, I sense it, I know it, and it's always been like that. It's just bizarre. Like, no matter what I try to do to try to numb it or mask it or whatever, that's always there, that magnet. And it can be frustrating, especially wanting to connect to people or wanting to get close to people, because as you bring up these darker elements or these darker forces for people to process, it puts them into this force transition space, right? Where, okay, if you're over there and you want to cross this bridge and meet me over here, there's no going back. Like, once you know, you can't unknow it. Once you go through the experience of it, you can't unexperience it. Which I guess kind of leads me back to another episode of Black Mirror, whatever, last night, where this woman wakes up in the morning and she doesn't know who she is or how she got there, and she's panicking. And she walks out of this home that she doesn't realize is her, and she is in this realm or this world where people are filming her and watching her, and there are these horrible mass people coming after her, trying to shoot her and kill her, and just taking her through this very morbid experience in this morbid environment where at the end, she comes to the realization that she's inside of this reality TV show or something. And as she goes through this pain and this torture and all of these horrible experiences, I mean, she's just afraid and neurotic and unnerved and in total survival mode. Like, has no freaking idea what's going on. And there's these things coming after her, wanting to kill her, wanting to harm her. So the initial instinct is to run and to get away, but she's trapped and she's contained. And come to find out, this whole thing is orchestrated. And they begin towards the end of the reality show itself within the show, right? Towards the end, they turn her and they expose her to herself, and they show her this. Basically why she's in this series and how she had witnessed and participated in the murder of a young girl with a boyfriend or whatever and did nothing. And so this whole experience is her punishment. And you find out towards the end of the episode that every day for her is like this. And at the end of her show, right, every day, she's presented with these horrible, horrific things that she did, coming from this complete sense of unconsciousness and being very much aware consciously of everything horrific. She goes into these just screaming fits. She's tortured. It's incredibly painful for her because she's being forced to experience what she caused or created on somebody else. Day in and day out and day in and day out, and every day it's waking up, not knowing who she is, coming to this realization that she's this horrible, terrible person and did this terrible thing, and she's just tortured and punished by it. And her torture and her punishment is being witnessed and watched by other people who are doing nothing about it. So do something about it. If you see somebody being tortured or if there's something horrible going on, say something, do something about it. So many people don't. And it's frustrating. There are a lot of people who know so-and-so did something horrible to so-and-so or whatever, or they watch so-and-so do something horrible to so-and-so and they do nothing about it. It's pure speculation or entertainment for them, or they get some sort of kick out of it, right? Or whatever that's about. So look at that. if you see an injustice or if you see something that's wrong, you have to speak up for it. If you know that it's wrong and you don't do anything about it, you're complicit in that wrongness as well. You know? And then you get groups and groups and groups of people who become complicit in this destruction towards other people. And then you get something demonized, and then it takes us back to the previous episode or whatever, you know, of the war people who are totally desensitized and they go, oh, I'm going to kill it. It's just, it perpetuates this cycle of devolving, at least for a portion of our species. Like Homo luminous or bust for sure. Thank you, Tim Glenn, for that one. And the Homo sapient aren't going to survive if you don't have the wherewithal in you to make that transition, evolutionarily speaking, on the genetic, on that micro level, right? From the Homo sapient, I can do, know nothing, whatever, something horrible happened to me, I can't heal it, or I need something external from me to fix it. That's going away into this luminous light body energy where we're understanding the power of our minds and the power of our consciousness, right? Where if something horrible happens or if we break an arm, we can dive into ourselves in such a way where we can, through our conscious powers, restore and heal something. We've seen examples of this maybe throughout history, not all the way back. I don't know, maybe within the last 2,000 years, 1.5, something around there. Something maybe about the BC, something about Christ consciousness and all that shifting into that, you know, then we begin to have, but it feels like even before that there was some sort of understanding of luminous body, light body potential, or that potential to heal ourselves through our conscious awareness and to overcome these difficulties and these struggles in these transitions. Right? Because if you have these limiting beliefs that are locking you into that sapient mentality where everything is solid and disconnected, you won't make it. You won't make it to the other side, right? But if you can break down these limiting belief systems or these structures of consciousness within your brain and begin to feel into the feelings and the energetics of all things around you, you're going to be surprised about what you can find or discover or do or heal or feel. And I think about these different periods of transition or chapters of transition that I've had throughout my life, and these really deep, dark moments where like the pain is just too much, just unbearable. So many levels. I don't know, I got a block coming up there. And thinking, oh, I'm not going to make it, you know, and looking back at all these experiences that I've had that should have or could have killed me, literally. But here I am today, and I feel fine, kind of unfazed by it all. Probably the healthiest I've ever been in my life. And part of it's like, how? And the other part of it's like, well, duh, because you've willed it. Because you've willed it to be so. You've learned the tools and the skills to get you through that. The chariot comes up. There's armor and protection that comes through the experience of the learning and the loving to learn and having no other choice but having to learn to be able to survive. You know, not the only one. Many people experience this. It's not unique to any individual. It's a collective experience, one which we're all capable of experiencing. So if we're talking about the chariot in this transition, being on guard and being protective or protected. Okay. So in that transition, I like the way it words it because it's what we're talking about here. the charioteer prepares, we talked about being prepared in preparation, correct? Prepares to venture out of the city. Overcoming past adversities has made him strong. Now he takes his experiences to new lands. So it's taking all of these horrible, horrific things that you've experienced, learning from them, and then healing with them, through them, back again to the wounded healer and the Chiron aspect within your natal chart. You can get free natal charts on astro.com or reach out to me or an astrologer or something. And you can look at these aspects and facets. You just have to commit yourself, dedicate yourself to diving into the research of it. And again, it's not like it's indoctrination or some sort of church. I like looking at it through the lens of personality profiling. And it's one of many. I mean, you can take many different aspects and features of it. There's just something ancient about it that connects us to the stars. From the molecular level, as above, so below, everything's connected. We start talking about consciousness and quantum physics and all of these ideas and all of these things. We find out we don't really know what's real and we don't know what reality is, and all these things that we once thought were really aren't. We don't really have any clue. Therefore, the creative potential inherent in our lived experience is just that. It's creative. It's creativity, it's innovation, it's evolution. It's being able to be into this space where we can solve problems, you know? And oftentimes people don't want to talk about problems. They just want to pretend like the problems don't exist, or ignore the problems, or avoid the problems, or feel like the problems can't be addressed. And if you start talking about the problems, or if you start addressing the problems, then people are like, you can't do that. You're dark and you're scary. Just let it go. Be happy. Be positive. You know, they want to run from that. And they don't learn from it. They don't gain from it. They don't evolve. They become sapient. Rather become luminous. Okay? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We'll pull one more. Deviant moon. Maybe we'll pull one out of new chapter and then one out of the conjure deck. It's 10:10 because we're going into new chapters. That makes sense. I'm on 16% battery, so we'll see if we can get to the point, be concise, and just get right to it without having to fluff up anything. Page of Cups, okay? We'll talk about Page of Cups and the things that we're uncovering in this journey. Another page, another student. This is Cups are emotions. Wands are creativity, right? So in this creative experience, and to manifest or develop your creative expression, the creative side, whatever that might look like, it doesn't have to be art, right? There's a way of thinking. You're learning how to navigate your emotions. Where's the conjure deck? New chapters down here. Let's do new chapter first. It's a painstakingly timeful experience. That makes sense? It just takes time. It takes time in a realm where there is no time and space. It just is what it is, right? It's just energy and working with the energy that's around you. Around you, in you, through you. Energy, I mean, it can't be created or destroyed. It's the ultimate foundation and building blocks of whatever this lived experience is that we're having. I guess before I pull out of the new chapter, let's look at the Page of Cups as far as what our specific question is. Where did I put the little... Oh, right in front of me. Comforting a hapless sea creature she holds in her cup, the page makes her way to the beach. The fish offers her a glowing pearl as thanks for helping him find the way home. reflective and imaginative, compassion, gratitude, right? Realm of creativity, it's the realm of imagination. And again, back to the video that I was referring to earlier, when you're in the energy of gratitude, it's difficult to be in the energy of fear. And that energy of fear, right, puts us into this part of it: a selfish person, secretive, a liar, or a lazy person. The secretive part of it, like, what are you hiding? I think a lot of people are hiding things right now. They're being secretive and they're not being fully honest. They're trying to take shortcuts around the emotional work. They don't want to do it. They want to maintain that stagnancy, the predictability. The Page of Wands, I don't know that I mentioned it. Where did you go? Did I leave you out? This guy, his inversion: dim-witted, poor choices, indecisive. So just not using your intelligence. I mean, just being like dumb about the whole thing. If you're being dumb and egotistical about the whole thing, it's not gonna work out the way that you want it to, or the way you expect it to. One more time, where did you go? A liar, lazy person, like, what are you? And lies can be simple. What do I want to say? Withholding information is also lying, right? It's kind of in that secretive aspect where you're not being fully open and honest. So we'll look at that in the new chapter part. This is either people being dishonest with you or whatever you're being dishonest about with yourself, but the energy of dishonesty that you're experiencing or that's around you, the secrets, right? What are you containing? 9 discs, 6 cups, King of Wands. Let's do King of Wands because we started with Wands. Emperor started pulling out here too, but that feels like energy that's more centered on the ego, at least in this regard. 9 discs and overcoming the lies. We're trying to get to truth, right? That's kind of been a theme. And since I kind of kicked this back up with November, discs. Let's see, where are you? Disc is associated with earth, beauty and growth, organization and harvest, prosperity and civilization. I mean, this is a lot of what we're talking about, kind of all encompassed into one. So if we look at the 9, right, there's like an ultimate or an ultimatum. And she's got a scythe too. This is very similar to this. Your hard work is paid off and you're gathering your riches in. The 9 of discs represents returning health and vitality, a personal prosperity. Gather ye rosebuds while ye may. Treat yourself to the moment of abundance, comfort, and prosperity. Taste the sweetness of the fruits of your labor, and you're surrounded by plenty and having the things and having the resources that you need to. So that's being in that mind space of gratitude for all of the experiences and taking in the knowledge with the opportunities when you have them for personal growth and development, personal growth and ultimately transformation, no? So then we go into 6 cups. Cups has to do with emotions. The number 6 has to do with love. Cups here have to do with water, representing life and mutability, the underworld, subconscious and sexuality, beyond and spirituality. So these more esoteric forces that play into the energies that influence our decisions or our experiences, perhaps. So let's see, 6 cups, inner peace, reintegration of the self, kindness. The 6 of Cups marks a resolution of past traumas stemming from childhood. Not everything has to be perfect. Let go and accept yourself as an evolving being who has come so far already. See, told you. Forgive yourself for things that were most likely not your fault in the first place, and feel comfortable in your own skin. It's all right, right? And that feeling comfortable in your own skin goes beyond the surface of like how you feel about your body, and that more I guess just superficial relationship to the material world and form that. I gotta make sure I watch my timing here. We're doing okay. I'll come back to that. Take a moment and let all this kind of sink in. To feel comfortable in your own skin. It's the energy. It's that energy within, and getting out of that itchiness and getting into that peace. Maybe some people have to work through it through body issues and those sort of things, but those again are external social influences and indoctrinations that are used to control the sheeple mentality. So if you fall into that realm of judgment based on body exterior looks, height, race, weight, shape, color, whatever, you're missing something. You're staying on the surface of something that's asking you to be called into something deeper, and a deeper understanding of what this energetic flow is supposed to look like. It's all right. There's no judgment. It doesn't matter what your judgments are as far as who you are, because your judgments again are those words and things that we tack on to mask what it is that we're truly sensing and feeling. I guess, for example, like I feel good in my own skin. Like I feel good being in my body. There's a level of comfort or just ease in being to navigate and steer the meat suit. I wonder if I should take this. Ooh, who's calling me? Why are you calling me now? I'll have to call him back. I have to put my phone on the charger and then call him back. We'll get through this. We're almost done. But what I've noticed as far as like the body shaming part of it, because I get a lot of that. I can't tell you how many times I've heard in my life somebody tell me to eat something or eat a cheeseburger or like, oh, I'm gonna eat a sandwich. Like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, I'm healthy. I'm good. I feel good in me, about me. But the way people judge or want to perceive that, it creates this superficial energy around me, or the superficial level of judgment where I start getting into my mind and start playing into the game of the Matrix and falling into separation by looks instead of feeling into that energy of wholeness from within. Does that make sense to you? We looked at 9, we look at 6. Let's look at King of Wands. Wands again being that creative energy. And here, wands have to do with fire, will, spirituality, creativity. Soul, illumination, will and radiance, inspiration, and burning. And king, that burning inspiration, something in you, the inner calling or something. Some people have an innate nobility that does not belittle but actively supports others. I wish more people had that. So many people don't. There are a lot of people who belittle that outside of them or have those negative judgments on things outside of them, ultimately not supporting or being supportive of a person. The King of Wands is honorable leadership, Leonic courage, always protective. The King encourages community organizing and actualizes ideas rather than dreaming them up. Harness this transformative power and be wary of becoming mentally scattered and leaving the details behind to focus on grand vision. And we were talking about details and focusing on the little details and the micro-organizing, the micromanagement, right? The micro-focus out of all of this. Let's put these ones over here. I'm going to pull one out of the Conjure deck, and then we'll work on closing off this space. You can reach out to me for private readings. I've got like a $75 an hour typical basis, though $60 comes to mind as well as far as conversations and what I can accept. I typically do it by donation base or whatever, and it creates a realm of unpredictability for me, anywhere from like $0 or $1 to $110, and for that same hour worth in cost. So we'll put a middle point on there, worth your investment. Some of the quickest, cheapest therapy you're gonna get. Okay? That's something else I can work into things. It's part of unifying and bringing these components together. Let's do one card over here. Where are you? Our Conjure card. What's going to be our catalyzing agent to move forward with today? Where are you? Here? Okay. Shoes. Pair of shoes. I don't know that I've really had this card come up before. 4 diamonds, shoes, path, movement. Let's look and see what this card means. This deck is a little ominous. This is one that I approach with a lot of carefulness. That makes sense. This deck kind of freaks me out a little bit. Are you diamonds? Where are you? Hearts, diamonds. 4 work boots. Okay. Shoes retain the shape of the foot and therefore the essence of a person. They show where you've been, the terrain you've traversed, and so on. Upright, the resting boots denote a pleasant crowd or meeting, the results of which will be determined by the company the card keeps. Like, your environment is super, super important right now. Things, people, all of it, okay? The 4 of diamonds foretells a long wait for something. Patience pays wait. It can also prescribe a much-needed rest after trials and tribulations, like the farmer coming in from the fields before dinner and kicking off his boots to rest. What's needed to be done has been done. Now we wait. Once you plant your seeds, right? Once you plant whatever it is you're planting, you have to wait. It won't bear fruit overnight. You don't stick it in the ground and put water on it and then poof, you have an apple, right? You have to wait till the season is right, until the conditions are right, until the environment is right. But it's not within your control. Okay? You've done the work that you've needed to done, whatever, okay. You've done it, so tend to the seeds, continue to water it, continue to nurture it, continue to feed it light, whatever it is that seed needs in order to start those deep rooting processes so it can sprout. We started talking about this at the beginning of this reintegration November whatever videos. You can look back through my videos, whatever, and I don't know, gather whatever out of it. I don't delete these. This way, reversed. And again, this goes into like secrets and lies and all of that, okay? The card shows a breach of confidence and double dealing within your circle, especially from a person who on the outside seems like a follower. So be careful of that environment as well. Not everybody's got your best interest at heart. And I don't know if men do this as much as women. I just feel like I've experienced or seen this more through like females than I have through males, or friendships with females than I have through males, where they'll pretend to be your best friend. They'll be so nice and loving and caring and supporting. Oh my, and they're just, oh wow, and oh, like they just will fawn over you. Right, they'll pretend, but even though they're watching you, and even though they're, let's say, coercing you to get closer, to get into your energy, you just have to be careful. I'll pull another one because I've experienced it, where somebody be like, oh wow, we're friends, we're close, blah, 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 whatever, and then when it comes time to reciprocate, right? They don't pay you back, they blow you off, they refuse to give you these details and information, they withhold information from you, all the meanwhile pretending to be nice and pretending to be fun and whatever, pretending like they care, but really they don't. So how do you call that out? How do you address it? How do you deal with it? Oh man, I hid that one in there and I didn't want it to come out, but it did. And the Joker card, in this deck is that maleficent force, that malignant force, or that malignant energy or something, right? Somebody pretending like they care, somebody pretending like they're following, trying to destroy you or something from the inside out. How much more time do we have? I have 8%. Let's start wrapping this one up. Hurry, Joker, the Joker, and the black dog. Look out! The devil's about. Black dog folklore has been abundant since the colonization of the Americas and long before that in Europe. They were said to be harbingers of death or even the devil in dog form. This card shows the presence of evil spirits, demons, haints, whatever you want to call them. Their intentions ain't good. If it shows with the red Joker behind it, the spirit has been employed by another to do their bidding. If the red Joker shows before it, someone is knowingly or unknowingly doing the spirit's work. Ghosts and spirits can work your mind to do, say, or think things you never thought of. Nothing good comes of this card unless it is reversed, and it shows that there's no direct threat. The devil's not about. It showed up this way. So just be aware of that. I mean, that's that maleficent or that malignant force in there that's stagnating. And yes, I use the word malignant as in Cancer because something is depriving your flow, consciously, purposely creating a block. I know for me financially, having somebody not pay me a lot of money after having me do, months of work for them has just put a huge block on things in so many different ways. And they wanted that, for that envy and that jealousy to give them that false sense of security, right? I'm not fucking stupid. I'm not. I see it. I see you. Especially if that specific person is watching this. Yes, I know, and I see you, and I feel it. And I think you're a shitty person because of it. If not, that's not you. There's nothing to worry about. They love you, and I value you, and I appreciate you. There's a mutual respect and a mutual reciprocation. There's flow, and there's dynamic. And when you can have conversations and get into these connections with people where connections and conversation just flow so naturally, you can have these incredible aha moments, right? But just be careful. Like, you'll see it subtly. I don't know, maybe we'll look at this one. If I don't like the other one we pull out. You'll notice it. It's in that berating, or in that downplaying, or in that somehow belittling. If somebody is belittling you in any form, shape, or another, and oftentimes it's so subtle. There's a lie behind that facade, or something that they're trying to withhold from you, or something that they're trying to get from you. Energy vampires, perhaps, or just vampiric, something trying to deplete or take your energy, harvest off of you, copy you. That's why we're planting garlic. Ward off the energy vampires. It'll just take a little bit of time to come into fruition. But once it does, I mean, it's all going to be exposed. It's going to come out. You know, you'll see it. You'll experience it. And if you're that person that is lying and deceiving and withholding things and sucking the life force and the energy out of people, you'll be exposed eventually. Probably sooner than later. Okay, we're conjuring. I guess we'll look at both of these since I like to... it's not pulling in even numbers. But I like pulling in odd numbers. Both of these have to do with luck. So we're trying to conjure up luck, right? Luck, wealth, happiness, some sort of energy, right? That will conquer and beat and defeat. That's that winning energy, right? The devil, the evil forces, the demonic things. This is so that light overcomes the darkness, or so that those butterfly cells overcome the caterpillar cells, right? So that we can emerge and evolve as something much greater. It's interesting to see what happens when you just sit back and watch. And you watch and see what people would rather do, instead of trying to control them or influence them or manipulate them or whatever. But when you see what people would rather do, right? Like, if you owe me money, and you've owed me money for the last 1.5 years or almost 2 years or something like that, you could have paid me $5 or $10 a month. That's nothing. That's like a fucking coffee, right? That's nothing. And our bill could have been paid by now. Or we could have at least, like, you know, cleared that energy out. But again, there's withholding and withholding and withholding. And instead of reciprocating that energy, it's like going out and buying fancy new shoes, or like going out and, going out and buying fancy new shoes. Meanwhile, the only pair of shoes that I've been wearing for the last 8-9 months or something like that now, 10 months or something like that now, I can have holes in them. I was walking my dog last night or whatever over grass, and it had rained, right? And I'm walking through the grass, and slosh, 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 like freaking water coming up into my shoes. Can't afford new shoes because people don't pay me. Some people do. But those devilish forces that don't want to reciprocate, that energy taking, right? That are like, haha, I'm envious of your energy, so you're not going to get shoes because I've got other things that are more of a priority or something, or oh, woe is me. And I took advantage of your resources or something because I don't value you and respect you. Right? You're going to be that person? Fuck you. Fuck you royally. But if you're not that person, This one's cool too, woodpecker. This is all luck. Luck, 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 luck. So if you're not that person, here's all the luck in the world to overcome all that evil, dark, whatever bullshit that people are throwing at us. I'm fucking sick and tired of it. So sick and fucking tired of it. Yeah. It's just the ignorance of people. And the sheer, like, willingness to want to harm and hurt other people out of jealousy and out of envy? Fuck you! Like, seriously. If you've been harmed and hurt by that, if you have these people that are coming into that, I'm sorry, it's just, it sucks. It hurts and it's painful. Like, betrayal is awful. It's one of the worst things that you can experience. And it's that level of betrayal that, at least personally within that Chiron aspect or whatever, for me, makes it very difficult to connect with people and to be intimate and want to open up to people because it's anticipating that, right? But you can't be anticipating that and then like, oh, I'm going to do it first so it doesn't happen to me. Like, that's just perpetuating a really toxic cycle and you're not learning, right? So we'll talk about this one and then I'm going to close it off because I'm at my last 5% of battery. A very lucky card. It speaks of loyalty and long-term proposals. Based on this position in a reading, this can show a marriage proposal, business idea, or some other commitment that needs loyalty in order to come to fruition. If you're going to be planting the things, right, you have to be loyal to the seeds that you plant in the ground. You have to water them and nurture them and provide them with the safety and the care and everything that they need in order to grow. Otherwise, they don't grow. You know, if you plant a seed and then you neglect it, it's not going to grow. And that's probably one of the more irresponsible things that you can do as a wise and knowing human being, is plant all of these seeds and then not nurture them. Especially when it comes to relationships and things with other people, you know, giving these false hopes and expectations. Check yourself before you wreck yourself. Okay, let's look at this side of it, because if you don't check yourself, the woodpecker shows disloyalty or coming up short with goals in mind. If it shows with a king, queen, or jack, it may be identifying a friend who isn't loyal. Did we pull out one of those? I don't know. I kind of put it in there. I won't limit it because it's a group reading. You'll have to ask yourself where that energy is. But be mindful of it. Right? It's like when you go and you plant your garden, the enemy is watching and waiting, basically, until you plant the seeds. And when you plant the seeds, they're going to come in and sneak attack. You know, they're going to plant all these weeds in there. If I can find that other video that I saw talking about it or whatever, maybe I'll post it up today. Because if you try to pull up the weeds with the wheat, you know, before the wheat is ready to harvest, then the wheat dies and the roots come up from that and then it doesn't flourish. So there's like a having to live with these darker energetic forces until things are harvested and cultivated before you can gather up all of those weeds, put them in a big bundle, and then burn them in a fire. If you have any other questions or whatever, if anything comes up for you and you want support in this, please reach out. Don't let money stop you. Energetic exchanges, I think, are important, but yeah, like, pay what you can, do what you can, find a way to reciprocate with the resources and whatever that you can, but something that's viable for another person. Because, like, if you can't pay me money, don't offer me something in replacement of that that's unattainable. Does that make sense? Anything else we want to know in this space? I don't think so. I'm out of time and I've got to get my phone back on the charger. But please reach out. I hope you have a great day. Thanks for joining me for coffee in the morning in this meditative space. I really appreciate it. It's a sacred container for me. I value this space a lot for a lot of different things, and I'm just beyond grateful that hundreds of people are drawn into watching these videos. Right? Okay, bye.